Before we begin, if you love scary stories, haunted places, and dark mysteries, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and join thousands of horror fans who never miss a nightmare. Hit the like button if you're brave enough, and comment below, what would you do if you were trapped inside Blackwood Forest? Now, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and let's enter the darkness. On a cold October night, four friends entered Blackwood Forest, a place abandoned for over 70 years. The locals had one rule: if you hear someone whisper your name, don't answer. Jake laughed. Ghost stories aren't real. The group walked deeper into the forest until they found an old wooden cabin hidden between the trees. The front door slowly creaked open by itself. Inside, everything was covered in dust except for one chair. It was rocking back and forth as if someone had just stood up. Then Emily whispered, "Did you guys hear that?" A child's voice echoed through the darkness. "Jake, come downstairs." Everyone froze. There was no basement, only a trap door they hadn't noticed before. Jake slowly reached for the rusty handle. The moment he opened it, a freezing hand grabbed his wrist. Jake screamed. The flashlight fell. Everything went black. Only one sentence echoed in the darkness: "You should never have come here." Jake's scream echoed through the cabin. The flashlight slipped from his hand and everything went dark. "Jake!" Emily cried. No answer. A few seconds later, the flashlight flickered back on. Its beam landed on Jake. He was standing perfectly still, his eyes completely black. A twisted smile slowly spread across his face. Then he whispered, "I'm not Jake anymore." The walls began to shake. Old family portraits hanging inside the cabin started bleeding. The four friends ran toward the front door, but when they reached it, the door was gone. Only a solid brick wall remained. Then, thump, thump, thump. Heavy footsteps echoed from the second floor. Something was running, fast, toward them. Emily looked upstairs. There was no one. Suddenly, every window shattered at once. An icy wind rushed inside, carrying hundreds of whispering voices. "You belong to Blackwood now." Ryan noticed an old photograph hanging on the wall. It showed four teenagers standing in front of the same cabin. The same positions, the same expressions, just like them. At the bottom of the photo was a date, October 31st, 1956. Emily's heart stopped. That's impossible. Then she noticed something even worse. The faces in the photograph were slowly changing. One by one, they were becoming Jake, Emily, Ryan, and Sarah. Jake suddenly turned his head, farther than any human could. He smiled, and in a voice that wasn't his, he said, "Now it's your turn to stay here forever." Jake's smile slowly disappeared. Then, he collapsed to the floor. Emily rushed toward him. "Jake, wake up!" His pulse was weak, but he was alive. Before anyone could speak, a loud bang, the brick wall where the front door had vanished, suddenly cracked open. A narrow stone passage appeared behind it. Ryan stared into the darkness. "Is that our way out?" An old voice echoed from inside the tunnel. "No one escapes Blackwood." The four friends had only one choice. They stepped inside. The passage grew colder with every step. The air smelled rotten. After several minutes, they reached a huge underground chamber. In the center stood an ancient stone well. Chains hung from the ceiling. Old dolls, broken clocks, children's shoes. Everything looked abandoned. Sarah noticed strange symbols carved into the walls. Their names, hundreds of names, each one scratched into the stone. Then she froze. At the very bottom, 4 fresh names had appeared. Jake, Emily, Ryan, Sarah. Below the names, one date, tonight. Suddenly, the well began to shake. Black smoke poured out of it. The temperature dropped so fast that their breath turned white. A deep growl echoed through the chamber. Something was climbing out. Long black fingers gripped the edge of the well. Then a tall figure slowly emerged, almost 8 feet tall. Its body was covered in darkness. Its face had no eyes, no nose, only an enormous mouth filled with razor-sharp teeth. It tilted its head and spoke in dozens of voices at once. "I've been waiting for new souls." Jake suddenly grabbed his head in pain. His eyes turned black again. The creature pointed one finger at him. "He belongs to me." Jake stood up, turned toward his friends, and whispered, "Run." The monster smiled. Then every torch in the chamber went out. The screams began. Darkness swallowed the chamber. The only sounds were footsteps, slow, heavy, getting closer. Emily grabbed Sarah's hand. "Don't let go, no matter what happens." Ryan switched on his phone's flashlight. For a split second, the creature was gone. Then, crack. A loud snap echoed behind them. Ryan turned around. Nothing. He looked back at the others. Sarah had disappeared. Only her flashlight lay on the ground. "Sarah!" Emily screamed. A faint voice echoed from somewhere deep in the darkness. "Help me." It sounded exactly like Sarah. Jake shook his head. "No, don't follow it. The forest copies voices." Before anyone could react, the creature appeared on the ceiling, crawling like a giant spider. Its mouth stretched wider than any human's. Then it dropped. Ryan shoved Emily aside just in time. The monster slammed into the floor, cracking the stone beneath it. They ran through the tunnels as the creature chased them. Every turn led back to the same cursed well. It was impossible to escape. Then Jake remembered something. Inside the chamber was an old journal lying beside the well. He grabbed it. Most of the pages had rotted away, but one sentence was still readable. "The shadow cannot die, but it can be imprisoned again by the one it has marked." Jake looked at the black marks spreading across his arm. He finally understood. The creature had never wanted all of them. It had chosen him from the very beginning. Jake looked at Emily. "If I stay here, you two can leave." Emily shook her head, tears in her eyes. "No, we're leaving together." Jake smiled. "For the first time tonight, I think we actually have a choice." He tore the last page from the journal and lit it with Ryan's lighter. The symbols on the floor began to glow blood red. The shadow let out a terrifying scream. The entire underground chamber started collapsing. Darkness. Emily reached the forest outside. Just as the ground behind her exploded, the cabin, the tunnel, everything vanished. Jake was gone, but as the sun began to rise, Emily heard a familiar whisper behind her. "Emily." It was Jake's voice. She slowly turned around. Emily slowly turned around. Jake stood at the edge of the forest. His clothes were torn. His face was pale, but he was alive. "Jake!" Emily ran toward him and hugged him. For the first time since entering Blackwood Forest, everything felt peaceful. Ryan smiled. "We made it." Jake looked at the rising sun. "I thought I was gone, but something let me leave." The three friends walked toward the road. Behind them, Blackwood Forest was completely silent. No cabin, no tunnel, nothing. It was as if the nightmare had never happened. 3 months later, life slowly returned to normal. Emily refused to talk about Blackwood. Ryan moved to another state. Jake tried to forget everything, but every night, he woke up at 3:13 a.m., always hearing the same whisper, "Come back." One evening, Jake looked in the bathroom mirror. For a split second, his reflection smiled. He didn't. The smile disappeared. Jake stepped closer. Scratched into the mirror were 4 words: "You never really left." The lights went out. When they came back, the message was gone. Jake convinced himself he was imagining everything, until the next morning. A package arrived at his front door. There was no sender. Inside was an old photograph, the same photograph from Blackwood. Emily, Ryan, Sarah, Jake, and the little girl. But this time, there was one more person standing in the back, a tall figure made entirely of shadow. Its hand rested on Jake's shoulder. On the back of the photo, fresh ink spelled out one final message: "The curse doesn't live in the forest anymore. It lives in you." At that exact moment, Jake heard footsteps upstairs. He lived alone, slow, heavy, getting closer. Thump, thump, thump. Jake slowly looked toward the staircase. A shadow stretched across the wall. It wasn't his. Then, a deep voice whispered from the darkness, "Welcome home." The screen faded to black. If you enjoyed this nightmare, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more terrifying stories every week. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were trapped inside Blackwood Forest? And remember, sometimes the scariest monsters don't live in the dark. They wait until you turn off the lights. Sleep well, if you can. We'll see you in the next nightmare.